Hello, everybody. This is Matt Towers with CPA.com. I'm excited to be here today, continuing our LinkedIn Live series on real stories of innovation and assurance. Joining me today is Anurag Sharma, principal from Withum. Good morning, Anurag. How are you?
Good morning, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I know we've talked a little bit about some of the things going on there at Withum and a little bit about your role. So I think maybe to kick things off, it'd be good to kind of tell everybody a little bit more about you, about your role at the firm, and then we'll kind of get a little bit more into some things around innovation.
Sure. I'm a principal with Withum. Withum is a technology-driven advisory and accounting firm. We've been around for more than 45 years, about 1,200 plus professionals across, I would say, 13 office locations now in US, both on East Coast and West Coast combined. We also have a presence, international presence now. And I've been with the firm for 15 years now. And in my 15 years with the firm, gosh, I've been a part of the advisory practice, which is what I'm a part of now. But prior to that, I was a part of the audit practice. I was a part of the assurance practice. My background, I'm not a CPA. I come from a technology background. And so I've always been a part of teams trying to bring in the input from IT infrastructure, IT risks, IT security point of view. And for the last 6 years now, I've been a part of the advisory practice, focusing my energy on cybersecurity services for our customers, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, SOC for cybersecurity services, and related services that we offer to our customers.
Yeah, I think your perspective as being a non-CPA is actually interesting because I know we certainly have conversations and have plans to talk with CPAs through this interview process or the LinkedIn live interviews we're doing around innovation. So to hear that you've kind of moved in different paths around there at Withum, and that you are bringing more of a technology approach, an IT approach, I think that perspective is appreciated, Anurag, and I think we're looking forward to hearing a little bit about how that has played itself out and maybe some of the things you've gotten involved in. So maybe we can then get into this idea of innovation. So I would think that you view things through a different lens because of your role with technology. Apologies for the camera issues here, everybody. There we go. You view things through a different lens. So I would imagine as a result of that, maybe it's given you the ability to ask tough questions, figure out things that could be, done differently. That is a perspective that you kind of need to have somebody thinking about things from a technology standpoint. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that maybe that approach is helpful.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and over the last 10, 15 years with the firm, I've always been a part of a team where you would have, people from different backgrounds, CPAs, and people from technology background working together as we service our clients. And it's always interesting to see those discussions. And it's as interesting for me to hear, how somebody with a CPA background would look at things and how I, from a technology point of view, would look at the same thing, but from a totally different angle. And the best is that it helps a firm come up with very innovative solutions as we service our clients.
So let's dig in then. So maybe you can talk a little bit about some examples. I know one around cybersecurity that I remember from our conversations. There might be some other things that we can talk about, but I'll leave it to you, Anurag, to tell us, you prioritize. What do you think's been the most interesting way innovation has sort of made a difference there? Specific client interactions or projects? I kind of teed up cybersecurity, but whatever you think makes sense.
Sure. So before we get into the example, I definitely would want to highlight that it's very important that a firm, in order for it to kind of embrace innovation and make it a part of the practice, that it has to be a part of the culture. And I'm thankful that I'm a part of Withum. Withum as a firm, and I would say maybe even 10, 15 years back, realized that innovation is one of those key elements that has to be a part of the culture and the Withum way, because that is the only way we can keep up with the marketplace and the changing marketplace. Our CEO, Bill Hageman, he always, I remember a story he used to share. I think a couple of years back, he had mentioned, and he gave the example of Nokia, right? So in 2013, we know that in the 2000s, Nokia was like the leading company that you can think of when it comes to mobile technology and cell phones. And then in 2013, it got bought over by Microsoft. And the CEO mentioned something which kind of resonated. And I think it's so apt even in today's day and age, right? That you don't have to do anything wrong. As long as your competitors catch the wave and do it right, you can lose and fail. And I think that is something that has always been the driving force in Withum. And it has always been a part of Withum's strategy to make innovation a part of our day-to-day life. From senior management top, we have innovation councils where we have team members from each level of a team. You would have a partner, senior manager, supervisor, and staff, people who are actually dealing with clients and are interacting with clients on a day-to-day basis. We want to get their input, and we want them to identify what are the problems that need to be solved and what is the best way to solve that in order to make that client service experience better for our clients, so that it can feed into our overall philosophy that we want to be a catalyst for growth and success for our clients. So that kind of sets the tone in the organization. And personally, on my side, I think maybe 8 or 9 years back, we did realize that there were a couple of areas where we wanted to focus on. And as you mentioned, cybersecurity was one of those. And Withum, and if you look at Withum's clients, right, we have a big presence in the small and medium-sized organizations, where more often than not, security and cybersecurity, at least when I'm talking of 2010, 2011, wasn't one of the things that would be on the top of the mind when it comes to the CEO and the CFO.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that we get that conversation started with our clients, so that we can help them succeed, make sure that they don't fall to any of the risks associated with that space. So out of one of our suggestions on an internal discussion, somebody came up with that idea that we should have this tool, a simple 2-page checklist, right, which can be made an integral part of any engagement that we have with our customers. And when you're speaking to the CFO, we wanted the tool to be simple, so that even an accounting staff member can go through those questions, have those conversations with the CEO, and capture some of the responses. And the objective was more to trigger a dialogue, trigger a conversation between the client and our firm, as well as within the client, right? The CFO and the CIO, about some of the areas and cyber risks that exist, and how the company is handling that on a day-to-day basis, or planning to handle that on a day-to-day basis. So we made. Sorry.
I wanted to pause you for a second. So to kind of summarize for a quick moment, you got to this point where there was something triggered to say, let's incorporate this checklist. Somebody somewhere suggested it, or maybe there was a one-off client where it made sense to go down a certain path, and the decision was, well, this might make sense for other clients, or something along those lines, it sounds like. And before I forget the point, I want to circle back to something you said earlier, which is you can do all the right things and fail. I think that's one of the reasons why you see firms everywhere. All of a sudden now they actually have people whose title is director of innovation, or there's an actual accountability to innovation in their title in some way, shape, or form, or at least in their job description there is, because we know, like you're right, it can totally happen where you can be doing all the right things seem to be going great, and then all of a sudden they're not, and if you're not ahead of it, you're playing catch up. And anyway, I just thought that was a very good point that you made, Anurag, about why it has to be a proactive approach. So anyway, circling back, I'll reconnect us with where you were in this conversation. So then you had incorporated this 2-page checklist. You wanted to make it simple. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure.
Correct. So again, the objective of the checklist was more a tool to get that conversation started with the client, make sure that they are looking at some of those risks, on an ongoing basis, so that they can incorporate that as a part of their cyber risk management program. And the benefit that came out of that was, one, the client was looking at Withum as a really trusted partner, because we weren't just an accounting firm, looking at their financial statements and issuing opinion. We were talking about areas and risks that went beyond accounting issues, and it also positioned us in a place where they started opening up to us about other technological issues that they would have and challenges that they had, and they wanted to see if there was any way we can help them with them, in any of those areas. So we started hearing back from our customers and our clients, and we started realizing that there are needs of other services that we can start developing and start offering to our clients, because those are things that keep them up, during the night. And end of the day, our mission is to make sure that we help our clients, and we are the trusted partner where we help them get into a situation where they are relaxed, they think that the risks are covered, and they can have a good night's sleep, right? So uh, uh, from the cybersecurity checklist came opportunities where we realized this is a space where Withum would definitely want to offer a number of more detailed services. So we now, over the years of time, have developed specific services that we offer. Uh, uh, One of the things that we launched in 2019 is called Withum Fico Enterprise Security Score. So again, catered to a small, medium-sized organization where everybody understands FICO, right? If you want to go get a loan, they will check your credit worthiness, and there is a score, and there is a very simple scale on which it would show where you stand. We wanted to bring in the same approach to cybersecurity posture, right? So look at externally available information about your domain, your organization, publicly available information, and then use that information and interpret it into a manner which is easy to understand by a non-technical guy, the CEO and the CFO, who actually owns and who is really concerned about these risks, but doesn't get that level of insight. We wanted to come up with a tool which would bridge that gap and get the conversation from a server room to like the boardroom, right? And it should be in a language that can be understood by the boardroom. So
yeah, that's actually pretty impressive. Just connecting it with something people understand, right? FICO score. Like people understand, hey, if your score is below a certain threshold, you really got some work to do to make sure that you're in a positive position.
correct.
Of course, my head went to what would Dave Ramsey say about this analogy, but let's not go down that path. But I think you make a point, regardless of what you think about something like a FICO score in real life. People understand it, and the connection makes sense to me.
Correct. And again, right, these are things which are opportunities for us to go back to our clients, provide them value-added services, provide them insight into areas that they want to get insight on, but don't have the ready set of tools to do that. And more often than not, when we get into that discussion, we provide them a FICO score, and for whatever reason, if the score is not up to their expectation, that results into a more detailed discussion. And depending on the need, they might come back and say, okay, can you do a deeper dive? Can you do a security assessment for us? Can you do a penetration testing for us, and provide us more specific recommendations on how we should go about addressing the risks that we see?
So
And
let me ask you. So did you put in place the skill sets, the people first, and then come out with this FICO score? And the reason I ask is I could imagine the fear that might be there if you ask questions that you're not prepared to answer or that you don't have the expertise to be able to help in. So how do you balance that part of it? I just that I think that's a real challenge firms have as well. We want to help our clients, but what if we ask them a question and they say, yeah, we really struggle in this one area, and you're left there shrugging like, well, I know a guy or whatever, right? Like you don't have maybe an answer yourself. So how do you balance that part of it?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, you would not want to ask a question to a client where you're not prepared to respond to to an answer, right? So in Withum, our approach was very simple. When we saw this need, we made sure that we expand our services, we get the right set of resources on board to provide some of these services. Withum actually launched Withum Cyber Division a couple of years back. It's now headed by one of our partners, Matt Ferrante. He has 20 plus years of experience with Secret Services, working on the security side on Barclays, and a whole host of data breaches that have happened in the past 10 years. He's been involved on that. So we bring that kind of expertise, and you have to have that kind of expertise before you can start that conversation with the customer, because you would always want to be in a place where if they come back and they need help, and if you're allowed to help, depending on what kind of a relationship you have with that client, that you can help them in the best possible way. So we brought Matt in, and now we have a whole team that works under Matt's supervision, where this is exactly what they do day in and day out, right? Perform pen testing, perform digital forensic work, because you can put all the kind of protections that you want, but things can go south and do go south. And if they go south, we as a trusted advisor would want to be that person that our customer gives us a call, be it Friday night, Saturday night, and say, this is an issue, can you help? And we want to be in a place where we can say, absolutely, we have a team, we can deploy the team, and they'll help you out. Respond to that particular incident, come out of that incident in a manner where you're collecting forensic evidence to support any ongoing litigation that might fall out of that. So
Sure.
Needless to say, you have to develop your skill set, and at the same time, you need to come up with an approach on how you would offer that to your clients and help them out in those situations.
So as a product manager, one of the things that I'm processing through what you're describing to me is there's this concept of buy, build, or partner. And the idea is you identify a market problem, right? So your checklist does that, helps do that, is you can identify problems that exist. And over the course of all the clients you work with, you would have the ability to kind of get a feel for what are the typical things we are seeing happening everywhere. And then you can decide, because you can do this without a checklist, right? I'm imagining that as your team has worked with clients in the field, you maybe didn't have an organized checklist, but you're close enough to a lot of these things to kind of have an idea of what is going on. And so it can get you to the point where you can start thinking, I think there are problems here that we might want to start to solve. And so I mentioned buy, build, and partner, Anurag, because not everybody is a Withum. Not everybody maybe has the resources to say, well, we're just going to build up a practice here and be able to do this. And so I think for a lot of firms out there, especially smaller firms, one of the things they might want to consider is a partnership. So maybe they have their own niche of expertise, but they can actually build a partnership where that partner of theirs has a niche, and then each of them maybe has questions they ask where the results might offer an opportunity to refer business to one another. So that's another approach. I don't want to digress or derail our conversation too much, but I know a number of firms who are listening might be in smaller firms, and they might be thinking, well, Withum has a good solution there, but what do I do? I don't know if I have the resources. And I think that might be a possible solution for them.
Absolutely. And I think it's a part of the evolution. So even from our point of view, right, we started with the checklist, and maybe I jumped a step. before we actually decided to build that practice in-house, we actually partnered with an expert, and we made sure that we were having that conversation with our customers. And when such opportunities were arising, we would bring in technical expertise from a few of our partners in and help them out. And we realized that that was a very good working model. And when we thought we've reached a threshold where we can now bring those resources in, that expertise in, is when we decided to actually build that practice. So that's a logical second step. If you are a small firm looking at going down this path, you would definitely want to identify, I would say, multiple partners with specializations and try and incorporate that as a part of your service offering.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes sense to do it that way. And I think this concept of the 2-page checklist, it's one any firm could really do, right? Any firm could really look at a situation and say, well, what other needs might the client have? And then as anybody's building something like this, they might decide, well, I don't have a plan in certain areas, so I'm just going to steer away from them for now. And then maybe that checklist evolves over the course of time. I'm assuming even the one you have today has probably gone through multiple iterations and will continue to probably evolve as you start looking at how technology is changing things and so forth.
Right, and we definitely, if I go back and see our version 1 checklist from, I don't know, 2010, and look at the current version, it does not look anything similar. One benefit of these checklists, and it's important how you roll it out, and I think we did it right, was when you collect that information, you want the data to be in a manner where you can actually analyze the data, right? You don't want to end up with 1,500 pages of handwritten checklists where somebody would need to go through each one of those to figure out a trend. So we made sure that when we rolled out the checklist, it was in a manner where somebody would fill out either a PDF form or an online form, and all of that data was getting collected in a central database so that you could query, slice and dice, look at that data from multiple angles to try and figure out trends. And I think that's very important if somebody is planning to go down this path, to make sure that you roll it out in a manner where you can get some intelligence out of that data by analyzing it.
You're speaking my language, Anurag. I'm data driven. I like to make sure the things I do have something to support them data wise. I know there are a number of tools out there that firms can use to manage a database of information and the intake. I know we recently deployed a customer survey to CPA.com customers around our OnPoint PCR product. We use SurveyMonkey. People can use different things, but the nice thing about tools, whatever they are, is that you aggregate that data. You can see the trends more easily. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I know as much as CPA firms love Excel, you don't have to spend the time in Excel trying to create, the exact result or analyze the results. Tools will help do that kind of thing. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, and it was so interesting. And I know, we designed this checklist more from cybersecurity point of view, but there are unintended consequences which help the firm. And I'll give you an example. So one of the questions that we had in the checklist was about compliance requirements. And we would ask a client, based on the industry you're in and the service you're providing, do you need to be PCI DSS compliant, or SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3? Do you have to undergo any SOC engagement? And there was another question which referred to, are you collecting client data and are you processing client data within your organization? And a combination of that two resulted in information that we could use as a firm, and we realized that there were a number of our existing clients who could make use of SOC 1, SOC 2 audits, but weren't undergoing a SOC 1, SOC 2 audits. And so we reached out to them. We explained to them what that was all about and how that can make them, can be used as a business development tool and help them differentiate from their customers. And we got a lot of success out of that. Again, coming out of a cybersecurity checklist, which technically has got nothing to do with any other practice,
Right.
But you get those kinds of input in once you have data in, and you can use that to expand some of the other services you might have.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really amazing the way sometimes there's a ripple effect. Anytime you have like a new innovative process, all of a sudden these other avenues start to open, and the applications can take a life of their own, take on a life of their own sometimes. So any final thoughts, any final suggestions you might have in terms of how anybody who's trying to find a way to spark innovation in their firms, what is a simple thing or anything they might be able to do in that way?
I think my final thought would be, and I'd like to circle back to that thing, right? That as a firm, you need to realize that you want to understand what the market trends are and change and adapt. Otherwise, the competitor would do it, and before you realize it, you would be out of business. So it's very important that senior leadership in a firm uh, embraces innovation. And the only way to do it is you need to encourage across your line, you need to encourage the staff to try new things. And you need to welcome failure because uh, that is innovation, right? You would try six things, four would fail, but the two that would work would be good enough for you to actually move to the next level. So it's very important that there is a culture in the firm that you allow staff members, you allow senior managers to try new things, welcome failure, and then celebrate innovation. In Withum, for example, we have an annual event where on an annual basis, we recognize leaders, people who have done extraordinary things in a particular field. So there is like marketing or client service, and there is a strength award associated with that. And I think for last 10 years now, we have a strength award for innovation. So that kind of drives the thing down from top to bottom, where as a firm you are going to recognize innovation, and if you do that, uh, wonders can happen.
Yeah, that you're some of what you said echoed from last week's conversation I had with Noah Buxton and Armanino. The cultural implications are significant, and you have to have a framework. You have to have some real diligent effort built around recognizing innovation, promoting innovation, getting people in a position where they feel empowered. I agree with that. Absolutely. Well, Anurag, thank you so much for your time this morning. This has been very insightful. I hope everyone has gleaned something out of this. I think what we're aiming for with this series is we want to get some tangible takeaways, ideas, things that people can bring into their firms today in order to be able to spark innovation and set themselves up for an innovative culture. So again, thank you. Appreciate it, and appreciate everybody taking a little bit of time out of their day to tune in. Have a good day.
Thank you, man.